Okay, good morning, everyone, and welcome back to round 2 of this Matzah Shabbos marathon. And that was real siyata d'shmaya that could have happened in the middle of the shir and caused me a lot of trouble. It happened right away at the beginning of the second part, not at the end or the middle of the first part. Really was a taiva from Hashem. So now the camera is unburdened and ready to go. We start at the top of Samach Vav Amud Aleph. Chamra atika be'inve, aged wine that falls on cracked grapes. Now, aged wine has a definite different taste than grape juice, and therefore that's min b'she'ena minai. And min b'she'ena minai only imparts a prohibition if it's b'nais and tam. So there, divrei hakol b'nais and tam. Everybody will see both Abai and Rava say it only asks if it imparts a flavor. Chamra charita be'inve. What about new wine with grapes? Now, new wine and grape taste almost the same. So if you go basit taste, then it's min b'minai and it's b'mashu. But if you go basit the name, so then one is called chamra and one is called grapes. And then it would be only b'nais and tam. So that's a machlokes Abaye and Rava. Abaye amar b'mashu. Abaye says it asks b'mashu because we go basit taste, and the taste of new wine and grape juice is pretty much the same. V'Rava amar b'nais and tam because we go according to the name, and the names are different. Abaye amar b'mashu basit taima azlina. We go basit the taste. I divide the chatam. They both have the same taste. So therefore, da'avale min b'minai, or min b'minai asks b'mashu. The Rava Amar no b'nais and tam. He says you go basit the name.
For pause, press 5 and then stop. To broadcast, press 5.
Basit shma azlinan. We go basit the name, and when you go basit the name, they both have the same name. They both have their own name. One is called Chamra Charita, and one is called Anovim. V'hai Shma L'chud, v'hai Shma L'chud, v'avalei Min B'Sheina Minai, and if it's Min B'Sheina Minai, then it's only B'nais and Tam. So the Gemara says, well, what about the case in our Mishnah? Tanan, Yayin Nesach Shenofel Olav Al Gabi Anovim. It says that if it's Mevukas, if they're broken, then it's Aser. Kesol Kedaita Chamra Charita Be'inve. The Gemara assumes that it's new wine with grapes. And my love, it's b'nais and tam. That it's also only if it imparts flavor. So that's a raya like Rava, that we go basit the name. One is Chamra Charita, and one is Anovim, and therefore it's only b'nais and tam. So Abaye says, no, loy b'mashu. It's also even b'mashu, because it's the new wine and the grapes have the same tam, and it's also b'mashu. Says Gemara, but the Mishnah is not talking about an isra of a mashu. Hamadiktani sefer zaklal kol sheba'anasa. If it adds flavor, if it's a b'nais and tam aser, kol she'ein ba'anasa. But if it's bad, like vinegar with split beans, it's b'nais and tam mutter. Michlal the b'nais and tam askina. Now, if it's talking about nais and tam, then if it's new grapes with wine, that's a kasha and Abaye, because Abaye says new grapes and wine have the same taste, and that would be min b'mino, and it would be as b'mashu. V'Abaye, so Abaye says you're right. It's talking about nais and tam, but masnisim b'chama atike b'anve. It's talking about aged wine with grapes. Aged wine with grapes, he say, has a different name and it has a different taste, and that's why it's b'nais and tam, even according to Abaye. And now Reuven Shannon is joining us, like I told you he would. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, she'akol niyeh b'dvaro. Now, the Gemara shows us this machlokes between Abaye and Rava in the reverse situation. Let's see it inside. Chala de chamra v'chala de shikra. If wine vinegar gets mixed with beer vinegar, the wine vinegar is of yayin get mixed up with beer vinegar, or chamira de chite, the chamira de sare, or yeast of wheat gets mixed up with yeast of barley. Now, in the case of the yeast and the barley, one was truma. That's not a yayin case, that's a truma case. But here we have the reverse situation. Abaye Amar b'noisen tam. Abaye says that it's only when it imparts flavor, because obviously the wine vinegar and the beer vinegar taste different. And the yeast of the wheat and the yeast of barley taste different. So basa time azlinan, v'ay time elachud, v'ay time elachud, each one has a distinct taste. V'avalei min b'shein amina b'noisen tam. While the Rav Amar, and I told you that our good friend Reuven Shanet will come when he can. Reuven, a very good tavach to you, as we are holding 15 lines from the bottom of Daf Samach Vav Amud Aleph. 15 lines from the bottom of Daf Samach Vav Amud Aleph. I always tell everybody, this year, it's very demanding. The bus leaves every night, and sometimes you can't get on at the start time. So it's okay to come on whenever you can. That's the way it works. That's the way it works in Rav Moshe Meir Weiss's shir, and you could come whoever you are. Right? Samach Vav Amud Aleph, 15 lines from the bottom.
Even me?
Yes, that was why there was an exclamation point.
Stop laughing at you.
Now, the Rav Amar, Rava says that they're both called vinegar, and they're both called yeast. So therefore, since they both have the same name, and we go by the name, it's min b'minai. And min b'minai is aser b'mashu. Rav Amar b'mashu, baser shma azlinan. V'hai chala mikre, v'hai chala mikre. They're both called vinegar, v'hai chamira mikre, v'hai chamira mikre, and they're both called yeast. V'avalei min b'minai, v'kol min b'minai b'mashu. So Abaye says, how do I know that we go basa taste? Amar Abaye mina amina lo de basa taima azlinan. So Abaye brings a very strong proof. The Tanya, Tavlin, Beis v'gimel shemus. Let's say you have spice, which has three names. V'hein min echad. It has three names, but it's all the same spice. There's white pepper, there's black pepper, and there's red pepper. Oy min gimel asurin, or min gimel, or it's three different. There's pepper, oregano, and paprika. Now, these are all arla. Asurin, they're asur, umitztarfin, and they combine to make a dish that they fall into asur, even though each one alone would not impart flavor, but they combine together. V'amar Chizkiah, it's where the three different spices each have the same effect. All three are sweeteners. V'amar Chizkiah, hacha b'minei mesika askinan. They're all sweeteners. Since all three sweeten the Kedera, therefore, since they all have the same effect, they combine. So Abaye says, you see, from here we go basar the taste and not the name. There we go basar the taste. Kulechad taimo. They're all sweeteners. If we say like Rava, that basar shma azlina, we go after the name. What do you mean? How could they combine together? One is oregano, and one is paprika, and one is pepper. Hai shma l'chud, v'hai shma l'chud. The Rava says that's different, because this is going, it's interesting, we quote a pasuk from today's parsha. This is going according to Rameir. The Tanya, Rabbi Yehuda Aimer Mishum Rameir, Minayin L'Kol Yisurim Shebetayra Shemitztar from Zemzeh. How do you know that you could combine Kloya Kerem with Arla, with Truma? How do you know you could combine them? Shenema Lo Yisaychel Kol Toyeva. Don't eat any of them, well, maybe not Truma, but Kloyim and Arla. How do we know that we could combine them? Kol Sheti Aftila. Whatever I made up abominable to you, Hariyiba Bal Teicha. So therefore, according to Reb Meir, that's why they could combine, because different Yisurim could combine one with the other. Now, bearing in mind this machlokes between Abaye and Rava, that Abaye goes basar taste and Rava goes basar the name. Chala legav chamra, if vinegar falls into wine, divrei hakol b'naisin tam, because it has a different taste and it has a different name. But now the plot thickens. Chamra legav chala, if wine falls into vinegar. Now, vinegar has an extremely pungent smell. And when the wine starts to descend into the vinegar, even before it falls in, it gets the smell of vinegar. See here, wine falls into the vinegar, but it takes the smell of vinegar. Abaye amar b'mashu. Abaye says b'mashu, v'Rav amar b'naisin tam. Now here we enter into a new machlokes, where the scent, where the smell smells like one thing, and the taste smells like something else. Do we go basar the smell, or do we go basar the taste? Abaye amar b'mashu. Abaye says when the wine falls into the vinegar, since the wine takes the smell of the vinegar, even though it still has the taste of wine, but Abaye says that the smell is more dominant than the taste. Abaye amar b'mashu. Why? Because this is a case where reichei chala b'taimei chamra, where it takes the smell of the vinegar, it still has the taste of wine, but the smell is more dominant. So chala, so it becomes vinegar. And since it fell into vinegar, that's vinegar into vinegar, and that's min b'min, that's b'mashu. B'avalei min b'min, I become min b'min, I b'mashu. Rava, however, holds the other way. Rava says the taste is dominant. Since the taste is dominant, here where the wine falls into the vinegar, since the taste is dominant, it's still wine. And since Rava goes basar a name, so wine is falling into vinegar, that's definitely min b'shein, I mean. Rava amar b'naisin tam. It's only if it imparts flavor, because reicha chala v'taima chamra, where the smell is vinegar, but the taste is wine chamra. So since it's wine that falls into vinegar, v'avalei min b'shein aminai, v'kol min b'shein aminai is only us a b'naisin tam. Now, This is a real Shas Gemara. Is it forbidden to smell Isurei Hana? Hai Bas Tia, sometimes, in order to grade a barrel of wine, they would make a little hole in a stopper, and then they would smell through that hole to see how the quality of the wine. So Hai Bas Tia, when smelling from a hole in the stopper, in the bung, if a guy smells a yid's wine, it's okay. Because he didn't do anything to the wine. He just smelled it from the outside. He didn't agitate the wine or anything. So the wine is good. Yisrael b'dayvik kechavim, but can a yid smell a guy's wine that's asabana? Abaya ma'aser. Abaya says, reicha milsi. You can't smell. Rav Amamutter. Abaya ma'aser. Abaya says it's also reicha milsi. Smell is forbidden. Rav Amamutter reicha la milsi. So Rava says, I'll prove you reicha is not a problem.
Don't we say Tomar Red is no Megillah, so why should it be us if I'm not?
Well, we also say that you're not allowed to pass a bakery that's chametz stick and smell. We also say you're not allowed to smell the ketairos of Avoda Zara. So let's see.
Okay.
Let's see. Only by Rabbi Moshe Meir Weiss's shir does he field questions at 11:14 in the morning. And from somebody that's named Barry.
Gotcha, Barry.
It's interesting, Taka. Barish isn't here tonight. Oh. No Barish, no Avigdor, no Mark.
No bourbon.
They got scared of the Avoda Zara.
So I'm a Rava. Mina Aminullah. How do I know that Reicha la Milsa, the Reicha v'loy klumhu, the Tanan, Taner she'esiku b'kamoin shel truma, a oven that was heated up with cumin of truma, v'afa b'yasapas, and a Yisrael baked bread in the oven, apas muteris. Now, even though the bread smells from cumin, lefi she'ein tam cumin, there's no taste of the cumin in the bread, el reicha kamen, only the smell. So you see reicha la milsa. Abaya says it's different there because the Isser was all burnt up. The Isser was burnt. You burnt the Isser. The fuel was burnt. Abaya, shani osam de mikla isurei. The cumin was all burnt, and therefore, where there's nothing left, be'en, of the Isser, that's why it's permitted. Now we're going to stop over here because this goes on to tomorrow's daf, and we're going to learn now the Mishnah Yomis. What? No, now we're not about Asabana, we're talking about Asabachila.
I understand, but it doesn't have any flavor, it just has a smell. So we want to know, is that milsa, that's the question here?
Well, if Reicha would be Milsa, and the Reicha would be in it, and you're not allowed to eat it, you wouldn't be able to eat it.
Right.
Now,
Boy, that stinks.